Hello, I'm Allie.
I'm Cydney.
I'm Hailey.
I'm Reanna.
And you're watching our podcast. Okay, we're going to talk about how some people believe in God, but others believe in science for being the primary explanation for natural occurrences. So our question is, do you believe in God or do you believe in science?
The first main topic of discussion, the origin of life. What do you think is responsible for the origin of life?
Jesus.
I'd say Jesus.
Sid? I'm in the middle.
I mean, there's just a bunch of evidence pointing towards, spiritual beliefs, and what I believe in is my religious background.
Same. I don't know. I don't really believe in, a God, but I do. Because obviously I'm Catholic, came from a Catholic family, but also there's also a lot of scientific evidence, but also I don't believe the fact that we came from one little germ or microorganism that, branched off into a million different ones. It doesn't make sense to me. But also, the God explanation is kind of the burst of light was kind of in the Bible, and that's, the Big Bang Theory. So it's, conflicting between both of them.
Okay, so evolution or God?
I don't believe that we evolutionized from a little germ and then to a monkey. I don't think that we did that, but I also don't believe that we were put on this planet exactly the way we are now. I believe that we had to evolutionize somehow to survive our day-to-day lives.
I agree. Okay, also there's these 10 commandments of God, okay? This has pretty much kind of something to do. It's basically the Nile River turning red, and there's also scientific explanations for it, but it's also written in the 10 commandments. So scientists had logical explanations to describe the occurrences that were written in the Bible, which I don't know which one I believe, because I also kind of believe in God, but at the same time I believe that science does have some explanation to why we developed the way we did, but also I kind of think that God kind of has something to do with it, the way we appeared on Earth.
What are your thoughts or ideas on the subject matter?
I just think that this is really important in our day-to-day lives, especially in this time and this era, because there's so much changing in the scientific world, and there's also a lot going on with the Christian side of things in the church, and so there's a lot of new developments coming out that makes this a really good topic of discussion.
It's kind of a big controversy between how things came to be, and it kind of God kind of gives an explanation to people who don't believe, so it's kind of giving people a new hope, making them kind of reassuring that there's actually someone out there actually helping them through daily life. And I think that's why people don't want to believe in science, and I think scientists don't want to believe in God because not really rational, and nobody's actually seen God because there's so many versions of God, pretty much.
And I think that people are just always so stubborn-headed this time that they just don't want to see the other person's point of view.
Very opinionated.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we have the birth of miracles, which is how do you explain miracles? Which I think basically okay, there was this video on birth, and there's so much that could go wrong, and there's supposed to be a lot more mathematically that should go wrong during a pregnancy, because everything has to happen so intricately. And so people think this, even the guy who explained it was a scientist, almost an atheist, but he started to believe that God was an actual person who controlled the miracles, because there's so many things that could go wrong, but yet they don't.
Yeah, I can explain that. I would explain a miracle as in something that was the probabilities of it is just so wrong, but it ends up being perfect, pregnancies and giving birth. Honestly, that scares me. So much can just not go right, but in most cases it just all happens pretty well. And so I just think that an outside force God has something to do with it, because without it I don't think anything could possibly go right.
And there's also been stories about how people with diseases that were even they couldn't figure out, but somehow just magically disappeared with no like scientific explanation or like medicine that could possibly treat it.
How does a person explain something that science cannot?
They don't.
Yeah. I think like the way I explain it is because of like God and just religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Like plain and simple.
How
There's
does
something
science portray life and all of its encounters?
Science says that we all came from like the same little organism, and like
Protus.
yeah, and we just like encounter things like that they have to like somehow figure out, and they have to understand, and they have to explain to everybody, which I don't agree with.
Like also like they explain like the life encounters. They explain that we like with the little mechanisms that we have is like in order to survive, and that we adapt. So that's basically what science says, and it portrays life as like being one thing, like no other possibilities.
Okay, so then our final brief topic is beliefs. So, do you guys believe in God, science, or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between, because like there's some things that God and like science can't explain that they explain. Like each one explains.
Yeah, like I'm somewhere in between. Like I'm a little bit more on like the religious side, just because like
Yeah.
that's how I was like
Yeah, that's how I was
raised, and so like of course like I have a cross on my neck right now. I hope I like have a have a little,
So, why do you guys think this debate is so controversial?
because there's like no like we weren't there in the time when like the life came to be, and like there also wasn't like anybody to see how God created it, even though it's in the Bible and written down, and there's like a document for it, but there's not like a definitive answer.
and just like people's beliefs and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so in conclusion, some people believe in Jesus, God, and are religious, and some people believe in science, and it's all based on your perspective and how you take it and the way you believe in it. This is Rihanna. This is Cydney.
This is Allie.
This is Hailey.
And thank you for watching our podcast.